are you willing to say the Lakers are a threat in May to get to June?
I am willing to say I will predict them to avoid the play-in tournament.
The LeBron Invitational.
Yes, I think they'll be above that, and I think offensively they're just going to be absolutely insane. Like, here's the thing. Luka is going to make Jackson Hayes look way better than he has ever looked in his entire life. Like, you give Luka an athletic rim-rolling center, and Jackson Hayes has a lot of flaws, right? But Lord knows athleticism and rim-rolling is not one of them.
Right.
And you give him that, it's like he's going to throw down a million lobs. You know, last year, Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively were both in the top 5 in lob finishes in the NBA last year, according to Second Spectrum. Like, Luka will get, he's literally the best lob throwing point guard, best lob throwing player in the NBA in terms of creating that for a rim roller. Yeah. In the tier 1 of greatest of all time, for real. And if you give him Hayes, he's going to be sick. And that offense is going to be unbelievable. They're going to be able to have shooters. They're going to have space around LeBron. Their small ball lineups are going to destroy teams. I mean, you have LeBron and Luka on the same team. It's going to be like, oh my goodness, how are you supposed to stop this double-headed monster? Because LeBron has been really good again, basically since he took that time off and came back from that.
Shocker.
Yeah. I don't know what to call it. His sabbatical.
Sabbatical.
Yeah. He took a little sabbatical, and since the sabbatical, he's been great. He's been awesome. He's looked so much more like the LeBron that we have been used to seeing for the last 20 whatever years. I think offensively they're going to be insane. My problem in terms of when you talk about like playoff success is let's look at the teams that you just named in the West who are really good. Who's guarding Jokic?
Nobody.
Now, I think in some ways they actually are kind of, in some ways, they're kind of better engineered against Denver than they've been in recent years.
Because you're going
to
put Jokic in so many uncomfortable positions defensively.
That, and also because you can guarantee, you could just make your rotations so that you're staggering LeBron and Luka. And that means that you are having at least one of LeBron and Luka on the floor for every single non-Jokic minute. And Denver already gets killed in the non-Jokic minutes. And if you can guarantee that like Luka is going to be on the floor during all the non-Jokic minutes, you might just annihilate the non-Jokic minutes. And that might win you a game by 2. You know, you could lose the Jokic minutes by 13. But if you outscore them by 15 in the 10 minutes Jokic doesn't play, you win the game by 2. You know, so you might be able to pull that off. But that being said, defensively, I'm like, I don't know what they are going to do schematically against Jokic. They're going to have to send help, and sending help at Jokic is the biggest nightmare you could possibly have, even when you have tremendous defenders and size around him. And you look at the rest of these teams, and it's like, we think of Oklahoma City as this small, aggressive team, but now they got Chet back, and they can go Chet and Hartenstein, and they can roast you, and they don't have to give up any space doing that because Chet can shoot, and Hartenstein is a phenomenal passer and playmaker, and you know, goes into dribble handoffs and facilitates from the elbow and hits cutters and all that kind of stuff. And he's got his floater, and Chet is, you know, maybe their second best player behind Shea. And so Oklahoma City is a tough matchup for them as well. I just think it's hard for them to get by some of these teams that are at or near the top of the West right now. And, you know, you look at if Dallas is going to be healthy, similar sort of thing. Like, obviously, if those two teams meet in the playoffs, oh my goodness. You get healthy AD and healthy Luka in a Mavs-Lakers series the first year. No, it's not at all, especially with AD out for a significant period of time now.
And that's where we're going next. And that's where we're going next. Because
let's go there.
AD has on the right abductor strain, which, like, you don't have to play a game of operation. I don't know if you guys remember the game of operation because maybe I'm a little bit on the older side. But, you know, the game where there's a human body and there's, like, open spaces where someone could get hurt. And if you mess around and get a little too close, it zzz. Well, the right abductor pretty much is like a groin injury. So you can mentally put yourself there. That's where he was at after in the third quarter of his first game in Dallas where he was outright dominant, right? We can talk about AD and Daniel Gafford, AD and Derek Lively, AD, Derek Lively, and PJ Washington. Like, you won't be able to score on these guys if they are healthy. But that doesn't matter, Fred, to the idiots outside of American Airlines Arena. I get, Fred, that Mavericks fans, or that large segment of Mavericks fans, is very disappointed, angry, sad, hurt that their guy, Luka Doncic, was traded, right? Death threats to Nico Harrison. I'm trying to figure out, Fred, where we draw the line where fandom crosses over into criminal. This is not just obsessive. This ain't just fanaticism. This is criminal. Like, Fred, are you surprised that that segment of fan has taken this that hard, that, from a difficulty standpoint? Like, where do you sit on that? Like, we know that it's wrong, right? No, you're not going to defend the action. But is that an element that has surprised you, that the depth of their pain is so deep?
Vin, before I moved into my current position, what was my job for multiple years?
You are the New York Knicks writer.
So I have some familiarity with Knicks fans, correct?
Yes.
You think there's a reason why I moved my Twitter mentions off my tweet deck? And if they're saying stuff to the beat writer, Vin, on Twitter, I can't imagine what they're saying to the GM after trading their hero. So no, I'm definitely not surprised that sports fans went too far and hit up some stuff. I also don't think, for what it's worth, and I'm going to make the bad apples argument, I don't think that a minority of idiots is representative of the larger. And if you want to like boo or something, you want to put up a sign, like, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the death threats and that kind of stuff. Like, I think a minority of idiots is not representative of the larger populace in this scenario. Look at what that crowd was like at AD's first home game on Saturday. Yeah. It was funny. I was watching it and everybody was ready for, just vicious chants and booing and all that kind of stuff at the game. And it was the opposite watching on TV. They were so pumped. AD came out in that first quarter and he was insane.
He looked like Wilt Chamberlain.
It was unbelievable in that first quarter. He played a perfect quarter of basketball. And defensively, he was around every single shot. He must have deterred 3 or 4 layups. He completely altered a number of others. Jalen Green hit a ridiculous shot at one point, and I'm like, I don't know what AD is supposed to do. It was absolutely perfect defense. He was insane on both sides of the floor. He came out passing the ball. He had assists on their first 3 buckets. His first play, he threw a lob to Gafford, and it was a tremendous lob where it was like, oh man, that's something. He was legitimately extraordinary to start that thing off. And then obviously he gets hurt. But the crowd jumped on that. There were no fire Nico chants or anything like that. And as I was watching it, one of the things I was thinking was, I really am a New Yorker, because there are a few fan bases. Like, I really do live 2 hours outside of Philly, because if the Mavs were displaced and all of this were taking place in Philly instead of in Dallas, like, I went to Philly then a few weeks ago and I covered a Sixers game, game, and PG, Maxey, and Embiid were all out. And before the game, like before they do starting lineup intros, they just like put up the injury report on the Jumbotron. And they just put it up. They just flash it. It's just like tonight's injury report, whatever. Right. The whole arena just was booing like crazy. Like, just booing like crazy. Like, they booed the injury report off the Jumbotron. It was hysterical, honestly.
Pistons longtime announcer George Blaha, right? 49th year being a play-by-play guy in the NBA. they were playing Philly, and Tobias Harris, who of course took all the brunt of all of Philly's abuse, and George has something to say that went along the lines of, yeah, the great thing about Philly is like their food, their Italian food or something like that. The worst thing about Philly is their fans. Like it was a zinger from a dude who's almost 80 years old. I respect it. Now, when we come
Philly,
back,
oh yeah,
what's
do
that?
your thing.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say Philly would be booing Luka and doing all this stuff, or booing Nico and doing all this stuff. Like the reaction would be different. It was very different in Dallas. I would say it was actually less vicious.
Toxic. Yeah, it was less toxic.
It was not a Kevin Durant return game in OKC or a LeBron return game in Cleveland. Like those were some toxic environments. It wasn't that. It actually seemed pretty positive from the overall fan base. And I feel like people from Dallas should have walked away from that and been like, okay, that was a lot more okay than I ever anticipated.